Alright, welcome back to the Crabby Dice. Today we're looking at the other expansion to the networks called Executive. So this is a much bigger expansion than the first one, and this one is all about giving you variable starting player powers, which are called Executives. Alright, now what are you going to get in the box? Pretty simple. You're going to get the Season 1 through 5 cards that again replace the ones from the core game. You're going to get Pilot Season, Mogul cards. You're going to get the special powers and their respective decks. This is just so that you can sort of draft the one you want at the beginning of the game, and then you can use it as a sort of player aid on the back. Alright, you're going to get the sort of player colors that you're going to attach to it, and then you're going to get a whole slew of extra components. Now, I'm not going to talk about these components during this whole video because, you know, all these components deal with a specific executive that you might get. So they might get a power where you're going to take some of these components. So it's really all depends on the executive that you pick up. Alright, so what we're going to do, just like all my other videos, we're going to go through the setup, we're going to go through the rules, and then at the end, I'll tell you what I think. Let's get started. Alright, actually for this one I'm actually going to tackle the setup and the rules at the exact same time for each of the different parts of this expansion, just because it's going to be easier to explain you that way. But before I do so, there's going to be 5 major changes in the rules between this expansion and the base core game. Alright, 2 of them are pretty simple. Your starting boards and your starting cards, you're not going to be playing with these. Toss them back in the game box. Alright, after that, a couple of major changes here. That I always forget, but keep in mind, you're all going to be starting with $2 million less than what's written on the starting money section over here of the board. So first player is going to have 3 million, then it's 5 for the second player and 7 for the third player. If you're playing a 3-player game, obviously the other player counts. It's going to change quite a bit. Next, you're always going to start the game on the official side of the board. You're no longer going to be starting the game with the red side up. So the first person to drop in budget will be getting $10 million or 5 viewers, and not just $7 million from the original game. Alright, so you're going to set it up this way. And the last major rule that I always forget is that when you have your 5x genre bonus, you can no longer take network cards or exchange money to viewership, alright, which is points. Alright, you can't do that anymore. Alright, now let's tackle all the different components and the rules for this expansion. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is tackle the executives or special player powers, because this is the main focal point of this whole expansion. Alright, so what you're going to do at the start of the game is you're going to shuffle up your deck of executives here. You're going to give 2 randomly to every single player face down, and you guessed it, they're going to look at the 2, they're going to pick the one they want to play with, and they're going to toss the other one into the game box. Alright, you're going to go through the large deck of executives. You're going to find the one that's yours. You can play with the man or the woman side up. You're going to take your player color. You're going to attach it. And that's going to be your new player board. You're going to have your 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and 10 o'clock slots over here. Now, I'm not going to go through every single power and explain to you how they work. There's a large rulebook, and each one is explained in really high level detail. But you can look at the iconography here and figure out how it works. All right, and it's sort of gonna drive your game, because you're gonna want to use your power as often as possible. All right, let's put this back. All right, next let's tackle the season 1 through 5 decks. Now, just like the first expansion, this is gonna replace the season cards from the base game. All right, you're also gonna have to go through the season cards and remove the 2 or 3x cards if you're playing a 2 or 3 player game, so that the deck is more you know, equal in the different types of shows while you're playing. Now, if you're playing a 4 and 5 player game, what I like to do personally is just shuffle all the cards from the core game and this expansion all together. You're drawing 8 or 9 cards every single round, so you know the distribution might be a little out of whack, but you'll end up getting a nice variety of shows anyway, and it's good to see the different variety of parity cards from both the base game and this one. So I like to play it that way, but the official rules are just playing with this deck. Alright, next let's tackle the pilot season cards. Alright, these cards basically replace the starting shows that you would have had in the base game. Alright, they're also going to tell you what you're going to be starting with, so the stars, the ads, and maybe some extra money. Alright, so what you're going to do at the start of the game, you're going to shuffle this up, and you're going to hand 4 cards to every single player, and you're going to be basically doing a draft. Alright, so if you don't know what a draft is, you're going to be taking one of these cards, putting it face down, and passing the other cards to the person on your left. Alright, then you're all going to reveal at the exact same time. You're going to slot this into the highest number first, so this one's going to go to the 8 o'clock slot, then the next one's going to go to the 9 o'clock slot, and then 10 o'clock slot, and so on and so on. Alright, after the draft is over, you're all going to have 1 card left over. That one's just going to go back into the game box, because you can only start with 3 shows, but you have 4 cards in your hand. All right, now what do these cards give you? Well, when you draft it and you display it and you slot it into the time slot, you're gonna look at the little wording at the bottom here, and you're gonna get the rewards. All right, some of them are money, some of them are stars, and some of them are ads. So now, instead of using your starter cards, you can have a different variety of what you're gonna be starting with. Maybe more money, maybe 2 ads and no stars, maybe 3 stars and no ads, and so on and so on and so on. So you're all gonna be starting on different footing, unlike the base game. All right, so that's a pretty cool addition. All right, you don't score any points at the end of the drafting phase pilot season. All right, you're still gonna do the first round of the game and then score at the end of the first round. All right, this is just a draft for your starting sort of resources, let's just say. All right, and the last thing to talk about are the mogul cards. All right, this is a funky new rule. All right, so at the start of the game, you're gonna shuffle this up. You're gonna draw the number of mogul cards equal to the number of players plus 1. So in a 3-player game, you'll flip over 4, and you're gonna put these out on the side of the board near the network cards. All right, and how these work is, well, as soon as you sort of get a 5x bonus or a 3x bonus for the second time, you can take one of these cards. And what these cards are just really powerful network cards, just give you a ton of points, so you sort of want to race out and get one if you can. All right, now a couple of rules with these. It's first come, first serve. So they don't get refilled. So as soon as somebody takes one off the side of the board, well, there's only going to be 3 left, and the next player takes one, there's only 2 left, and so on and so on. All right. Another thing to note is that it doesn't refill. All right. And another important rule is each player can have at most 1, unless their special power tells them that they can have more. All right. So that's how these work. And once you get one, if it's a 1x and you activate it right away, then just flip it over in front of you just to indicate that you've used one during the game, and you can't take another mogul card. All right, so those are all the rules and setups for this expansion. All right, super quick review time here for the executives. And you know what? I'm not going to be wasting your time. This is just an incredible expansion. The networks went from a game that I might have traded away to a game that I'm going to keep in my collection for a very long time, because this expansion blew me out of the water. All right, it's really, really good, and it adds some really important things that the base game didn't have. So, in the base game, it could have gone a bit stale after 5 or 6 plays, because everyone's starting the exact same way. You're pretty much doing the exact same thing, and it doesn't actually change that much what you're doing throughout the game. And now you have starting player powers. Finally, this is amazing. They all play totally different. It's going to change your style of play really good. I also really love the pilot season cards. This changes up how everyone else is going to start. You can start with 2 ads, you can start with 3 stars, you can start with more money. You get to pick how you want to start. You can start with some genre cards already, so you can get to those genre bonuses really fast. So that's great. The module cards, awesome expansion. These just give you a ton of points. It is a race to try to get to it. You sort of also want to read them all at the start of the game, because some of them will score right away. And you sort of want to, engineer it so that when you get it, you'll score the most points possible. But this is an amazing way to score a ton of points. All right, so great expansion. Now, the only sort of negative that I also had with the first expansion, which is Tally Time, is that you're supposed to use with only this deck. And like I mentioned in the setup and rules, if you look at my playthrough, I did leave some executive cards in there, but what I like to do is just shuffle in all the cards together, make it like Thunderstone, where you have just one massive deck of each of the seasons, and it's completely random what's going to come out. Now, I would not suggest you do that in a 2- and 3-player game, because you might just get like 16 action shows in a row, and it'll throw off the balance between the genre cards. But if you're playing 4 and 5 players, because you're flipping over so many cards, shuffle them all together and just have a good time. All right, so those are my thoughts overall. Just a fantastic expansion. Highly recommended. I would never play without this stuff. And you know what, it doesn't add any extra time to the game. All right, there's just like a 5-10 minutes extra overhead at the start of the game, just to draft your starting pilot cards and your starting executive, maybe going over the rules. So it doesn't add that much time overall. And it doesn't add that much complexity, because the rules of the core game stay exactly the same. It's just the way you interact with the rules, because of your special power, just changes things up. So that's a fantastic addition. All right, so overall, really good. We'll see you in the next one. Later.